comforting each of us. Obviously, a 3-year-old doesn't understand words like leukemia. His tender little heart, however, was breaking, not for himself, but for his parents. "Please don't cry, Mommy," he pleaded. "Everything is going to be okay, Daddy. I promise." These words were comforting reminders of why we loved him so much, and desperate warnings of how deeply we were afraid of losing him. What came next was a whirlwind of activity that set into motion a journey that continues today. We held each other, wept, prayed, and wept some more. Our godly doctor prayed with us, and then gave us time alone to process. As we tried to regain our composure, Heather and I agreed that our extended family needed to know. The first phone call I made, however, was to a trusted mentor and friend who is both a moral compass and wind of strength in my life. He listened quietly and then prayed for us through his tears. Somewhere in his words, the Spirit of God revived my sense of responsibility and purpose in caring for my family. Despite my personal anxieties, I knew God wanted to use me in their lives at this moment. Soon I was calling our immediate family to break the news. The calls took on a pattern of horrified silence, followed by tears. By this time, a colleague and friend was standing at the end of the hall in the tiny office complex. Nearly 30 years prior, he and his wife lost a child to cancer, and his presence was reassuring to me. Though time seemed to stand still, a second blow jolted us back into reality. "Carson must be admitted to the hospital tonight," Dr. Roberts explained. Her words were direct but not cold. "You have 2 options going forward. He can be treated here in Mobile or at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee." "What would you recommend?" I asked. "There are advantages to both," she said, "and the success rates here are almost as good as they are in Memphis." Almost? Such a small word, but it made a monumental difference. How many of you reading this book realize that when you are talking about your babies, your most precious worldly possession, almost, just isn't good enough? The decision was made. By 5 p.m., we got in our car and drove home in a daze. Having recently moved to Mobile in order to pastor a new congregation, I had no idea how long it would take to drive to Memphis and wondered when we would arrive. Soon my phone rang, and I heard a reassuring voice on the other end of the line. "Pastor, I know what's happening, and I want to help. Please don't drive to Memphis. Let me fly you there in my plane. I'm making preparations. Just be at the airport as soon as you can." Gratitude and disbelief overwhelmed me. Though I was thankful for this sacrificial act of generosity, I simply could not believe any of it was happening. Why us? Why now? Why this? Feelings of anger, frustration, and bewilderment ravaged my mind. There was little time, however, to camp out on the highway of disbelief. We made our way home and threw clothes into our suitcases before driving to the airport. As we ascended off the runway, I looked out at the lights of this unfamiliar city we were trying to make home. In my heart, I knew that things would never be the same. 2 hours later, we landed safely in Memphis, jumped into a rental car, and drove to St. Jude Hospital. By 10 p.m., Carson was in a bed, and nurses began checking vitals and running more tests. These events seemed like a nightmare, but I wasn't waking up. Our near-perfect, neatly packaged Christian life was unraveling. As fear welled up in my heart, myriad questions bombarded me. Can we handle this? Is our faith strong enough? Will we lose our little boy? Why is this happening at all? Of all the people forced to go through a trial like this, why did God choose us? Not a book about cancer. All of us have at least one thing in common. We are in a storm, headed for a storm, or coming out of a storm. I've heard those words from countless Bible teachers and felt compelled to share them with the congregation I led on what began as a typical Sunday morning.